billionaire twins rejected food from everyone except this poor waitress. What happened next? Hey, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me, it really keeps me going. Can't wait to see your thoughts in the comments. What if a simple act of kindness could change everything? Elena Rossi, a waitress in a small-town diner, never imagined her life would be anything more than surviving one shift after another. But when two billionaire twins walked into her diner one stormy night, rejecting every meal offered to them, Elena did something no one else dared. She offered them a bowl of homemade soup. What happened next would turn her world and theirs upside down. As Elena's unexpected connection with the twins leads to a shocking offer, secrets are uncovered, and lives are forever altered. This story of integrity, loyalty, and the unexpected power of one woman's voice will leave you questioning, can kindness really spark a revolution? Stay with us to discover how one waitress changed the lives of two billionaires and built something bigger than all of them. Elena Rossi moved through Rosie's diner like a shadow, her sneakers squeaking faintly on the sticky linoleum. 25, she was the diner's heartbeat, her presence steady and unyielding despite the exhaustion etched into her face. Her dark hair, pulled into a messy ponytail, was flecked with flour from a botched attempt at baking biscuits earlier. Her brown eyes, though tired, held a quiet fire, a resilience forged in years of struggle. Every dollar she scraped together from her double shifts went to her mother, Sophia, who lay in a hospital bed 20 miles away, her body ravaged by stage 4 lung cancer. The bills were a relentless tide, threatening to drown them both, but Elena kept swimming. Dreams of college, of a life beyond the diner's chipped countertops and greasy menus, had been packed away like childhood toys. Yet Elena's kindness remained, her rebellion against despair. She memorized every regular's order, slipped extra napkins to the elderly widow who came in alone, and gave free refills to the single mom whose kids drew on the placemats. She was a survivor, not by choice but by necessity, her heart too stubborn to break. In the corner booth sat Leo and Noah Sterling, 19-year-old twins who seemed to have stepped out of a world Elena could barely imagine. Leo, the elder by 3 minutes, had a sharp jawline and a restless energy, his fingers drumming a staccato rhythm on the table as if counting down to an explosion. His dark hair fell into his eyes, which flicked restlessly around the diner, weary and distrustful. Noah, softer spoken, had a gentler face but a gaze that pierced like a blade, his green eyes cataloging every detail, the flicker of the fluorescent lights, the slump of Elena's shoulders, the tension in the air. They were heirs to the Sterling Empire, a billion-dollar colossus of real estate, tech, and influence, built by their father, a man whose name carried the weight of fear and power. Raised in a world of private jets, gated estates, and calculated alliances, the twins had learned early that trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. Everyone wanted something, money, status, a piece of their name. Their father's shadow loomed over them, a constant reminder that their lives were not their own. Beneath their polished exteriors, they carried a loneliness so deep it had become part of their bones. The diner's other patrons, truckers with sunburned necks, locals nursing warm beers alone, tourists scribbling in a notebook, stole glances at the twins, their whispers laced with curiosity and resentment. Why were they here, in this nowhere town off a dusty highway, rejecting every dish with a curt shake of their heads? Mike, the diner's grizzled manager, muttered about spoiled rich kids wasting his time, his patience worn thin by a long night. The other waitresses, Karen and Beth, hardened by years of low tips and rude customers, avoided the booth, their eyes rolling at the twins' arrogance. But Elena saw something else in their faces, a flicker of something raw, something she recognized from her own reflection in the diner's smudged mirrors, the ache of being invisible even in a crowded room. The storm outside raged, the wind howling like a warning. It was nearing 11 p.m., and Elena's body ached, her feet throbbing in her threadbare sneakers. She'd been on since 7 a.m., her third double shift this week, the weight of exhaustion pulling at her like gravity. The diner was nearly empty now, just a few stragglers huddled over coffee mugs, their faces lit by the glow of their phones. In the corner, the twins sat, their plates untouched, their silence louder than the storm. Mike had given up, slamming a tray down and growling, "Let them starve if they're too good for our food." The other waitresses, Karen and Beth, kept their distance, muttering about rich boys playing games. But Elena couldn't walk away. She'd seen too much pain in her life to ignore it, even if it wore a $2,000 jacket. She grabbed a bowl of her homemade chicken noodle soup, a recipe Sophia had taught her when she was 9, back when their kitchen was a place of laughter and warmth. It was simple: carrots, celery, noodles, a pinch of thyme, but it was comfort in a bowl, the kind of food that could quiet a restless soul. Elena made it for herself on long shifts, when the world felt like it was closing in. Now she carried it to the twins' booth, her heart pounding in her chest. Why was she doing this? They'd rejected everything else: Mike's famous meatloaf, Karen's apple pie, even the coffee Beth swore by. But something in her gut told her to try, a whisper of instinct she couldn't ignore. She set the bowl down with a soft clink, the steam curling upward like a prayer. "If you're hungry," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands, "this is all I have to offer." She braced for a dismissal, maybe a sneer. Instead, Leo stopped drumming his fingers, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Noah leaned forward, his guarded expression softening, his gaze flickering to the bowl. For a moment, the storm outside seemed to hold its breath. "Thanks," Noah said, his voice low, almost reverent. He pulled the bowl closer, and Leo, after a beat, took a spoon. They ate in silence, the clink of their spoons the only sound in the booth. Elena lingered, unsure why she hadn't walked away. Then Noah spoke again, his tone warmer now. "This is really good. Did you make it?" Elena nodded, a small smile breaking through her fatigue. "Yeah, it's just soup. My mom's recipe. Nothing fancy." Leo looked up, his restless energy stilled for the first time that night. "It's not just soup," he said, his voice rough. "It's real. Honest." That word, honest, hung in the air like a spark. It was the first crack in the twins' carefully built walls, and Elena didn't know it yet, but it was the beginning of a chain reaction. They started talking, first about the soup, then about the diner, then about things that cut deeper. Leo admitted they'd come to Rosie's to escape, to find something real in a world of fake smiles and hidden agendas. "We're tired of it," he said, his voice low. "The parties, the deals, the people who only see our last name. We just wanted something else." Noah's eyes met Elena's, and for a moment she saw the boy behind the billionaire. "No one's ever just talked to us," he said. "Not like this. Not without wanting something." Elena listened, her exhaustion fading as their words poured out. She shared her own story, not for pity, but because it felt right. She told them about Sophia, about the hospital bills that haunted her dreams, about the college brochures she'd thrown away when her mother got sick. She didn't sugarcoat it, didn't hold back. Her honesty disarmed them, and for the first time in years, Leo and Noah felt seen, not as sterlings, not as wallets, but as themselves. They talked until the diner's lights flickered, Mike signaled that it was time to close. The storm had quieted, leaving only a soft drizzle tapping the windows. As the twins stood to leave, Leo pressed a folded bill into Elena's hand. "For the soup," he said, his voice gruff. She glanced at it later, a $500 tip. She tucked it into the communal tip jar, refusing to let it change her. She hadn't done it for the money. She'd done it because it was right. The next day, Rosie's diner was electric with gossip. The twins' $500 tip was the talk of the town, whispered about by truckers and locals alike. Karen and Beth teased Elena, calling her the billionaire whisperer, but Elena brushed it off, her focus on the breakfast rush. She didn't expect to see the twins again. They were a fleeting moment, a strange blip in her relentless life. But that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they returned. They didn't sit in their usual booth. Instead, they approached Elena at the counter, their expressions serious. Leo slid an envelope across the counter, his fingers lingering on it. "Open it," he said, his voice low. Elena's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a check for $50,000. Her breath caught, her mind reeling. That money could change everything, pay for Sophia's chemo, cover rent for a year, maybe even let her breathe for the first time in years. But her pride surged, hot and fierce, a fire she'd carried since she was a girl watching her mother work 2 jobs to keep them afloat. She pushed the envelope back, her jaw tight. "I don't take charity," she said. "I helped you because it was the right thing to do, not for this." Noah's eyes widened, but he didn't argue. "It's not charity," he said, his voice earnest. "It's gratitude. You treated us like people, Elena, not like sterlings. Do you know how rare that is?" Leo leaned forward, his intensity pinning her in place. "We need your help. Not just for us, but for something bigger. We're starting a project, a way to connect with people who live like you do, who work hard, who don't have it easy. We don't know how to do it right. You do." Elena stared at them, her heart pounding. This wasn't just about money. They were asking for her perspective, her voice. But could she trust them? They were from a world she didn't understand, a world of private jets and power plays. Yet their eyes held a sincerity she couldn't ignore. "What kind of project?" she asked, her voice cautious. "A community program," Noah said. "Food banks, job training, maybe scholarships. We want to make a difference, but we don't want it to be some empty rich kid stunt. We need someone real to guide us. Someone like you." Elena's mind spun. This was bigger than her, bigger than the diner. But it was also a risk. What did she know about their world? And what if this was just a whim, a rich boy's game? She told them she'd think about it. But as they left, the envelope still sat on the counter, untouched. She didn't open it again. Instead, she tucked it into her apron, a weight she couldn't yet carry. The twins didn't stop at the check. The next day, they returned with an offer that made Elena's head spin, a job as an advisor for their new community outreach program, with a salary 10 times her diner wages. And as if that wasn't enough, they offered a full scholarship to business school, a dream she'd abandoned when Sophia's diagnosis turned their lives upside down. "You're not just a waitress," Leo said, his voice fierce. "You're smart, Elena. You're real. We need that." Elena's heart raced. This was her chance to escape the grind, to build a future. But doubt clawed at her. Could she leave her mother, her life, to step into their world? And why her? She was nobody, just a small-town girl with a high school diploma and a knack for making soup. She spent that night at Sophia's bedside, the hospital's fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows. Sophia, frail but sharp, saw the conflict in her daughter's eyes. "You've given me everything, Mija," she said, her voice a whisper. "You've carried me for years. Now carry yourself. Take this chance." Elena wrestled with the decision for days, her fear of change battling her longing for more. She thought of the diner, of the regulars who'd become her family, old man Tucker who always ordered black coffee and told the same war stories, Rosie the owner who'd given Elena her first job at 16, the kids who drew on the placemats, their laughter a brief escape from their own struggles. But she also thought of the future, of a world where she could help others, where she could be more than a waitress. She thought of Sophia, who'd sacrificed everything for her, and of the dreams she'd buried to keep her mother alive. Finally, she called the twins. "I'll do it," she said, her voice steady. "But I have conditions. I work part-time, remotely, so I can stay with my mom. And this program? It has to be real. No photo ops, no half measures. We do it right, or I'm out." The twins agreed, their relief palpable. Elena stepped into their world, her sneakers traded for sensible flats, her apron for a notebook. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to uncover a truth that would shake everything she believed. Elena threw herself into the role, her practical wisdom shaping the twins' vision. She suggested food banks that prioritized fresh produce, not just canned goods, knowing how much a single apple could mean to a hungry kid. She pushed for job training programs that taught real skills, welding, coding, childcare, not just resume workshops that led nowhere. She advocated for medical assistance for families like hers who lived one hospital bill away from ruin. Her ideas, rooted in years of scraping by, gave the program authenticity. The twins, once distant and guarded, came alive under her guidance. Leo's restless energy found focus, his quick mind turning her suggestions into actionable plans. Noah's quiet observation turned into thoughtful strategy, his empathy guiding their outreach. They named the program Roots, a nod to the grounded, authentic change Elena inspired. But as Elena dug deeper into the Sterling Empire, she uncovered a shadow that chilled her to the bone. The twins' father had built his fortune on predatory deals, buying up small businesses at a loss, then flipping them for profit. Rosie's Diner was one of his targets, its lease under threat from a Sterling subsidiary called Apex Properties. Elena's heart sank. The diner wasn't just a job, it was her home, her anchor, the place where she'd learned to keep going when everything else fell apart. She'd served her first customer there, cried in the break room after Sophia's diagnosis, laughed with regulars who'd become her lifeline. And now it was at risk, tied to the same world she was trying to trust. She confronted them in their city office, a sleek space of glass walls and polished floors that made her feel like an intruder. Her voice trembled with anger, but she held her ground. "You knew about this, didn't you? Your father's trying to destroy the diner, my life, everything I've built. And you didn't tell me." Leo's face paled, his fingers curling into fists. "We didn't know it was Rosie's," he said, his voice raw. "Not specifically. But yeah, we knew he was buying up properties. It's how he operates." Noah looked away, his eyes glistening. "We've been trying to distance ourselves from him, Elena, but it's not that simple. He's our father. He's everything." Elena's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. "Not simple? That diner is all I have. It's where I met you, where I kept my family alive when everything else fell apart. Your father's going to tear it down for what? Another strip mall? Another profit?" The twins were shaken, their guilt laid bare. Elena's words cut deeper than any accusation because they were true. They'd spent years dodging their father's shadow, but they couldn't run anymore. "We'll fix this," Leo promised, his voice fierce. "We'll stop him. I swear." Noah nodded, his voice softer but no less determined. "We're not him, Elena. We're with you." But their father was a titan, a man who crushed opposition without blinking. Confronting him would mean risking everything, their inheritance, their status, their future. Elena saw the fear in their eyes, but she also saw something else, a spark she'd lit in them. They were no longer just themselves, they were fighting for her, for the diner, for something bigger. The confrontation came at a glitzy gala in the city, hosted at the Sterling Hotel, a towering monument to their father's empire. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers, the air thick with the clink of champagne glasses and the murmur of wealth. Elena felt like an imposter in her simple black dress, her hands still rough from years of scrubbing dishes, her heart pounding as she navigated the crowd. The twins had insisted she come, their eyes pleading for her to trust them one more night. She wasn't sure she could, but she was here, her resolve unbreakable. Mr. Sterling was being honored as a philanthropist, his smile a polished mask as he greeted donors and politicians. Elena watched him from the sidelines, her stomach churning. Then the twins took the stage, their presence commanding silence. Leo's voice cut through the room like a blade. "We're here to announce something," he said, his eyes scanning the crowd. "We're leaving the Sterling Empire. We're building our own foundation, one that helps people, not destroys them. And we're doing it because of someone who showed us what integrity looks like, a waitress named Elena Rossi." Elena's breath caught, her hands gripping the edge of her chair. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling through the room. Noah stepped forward, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Our father's empire is built on greed. Small businesses like the diner where Elena works are being crushed for profit. We're done being part of that. We're choosing a different path." Mr. Sterling's face was a mask of fury, his eyes boring into his son's. He took the stage, his smile tight, his voice dripping with condescension. My sons are young, idealistic, he said, his words smooth but laced with venom. They'll learn the world isn't so simple. But the damage was done. The media exploded, cameras flashing as the twins stepped off the stage, Elena at their side. Social media lit up with hashtags, #Sterling Rebellion, #Waitress Warrior. Elena's name trending alongside photos of Rosie's diner. The diner became a symbol overnight, its parking lot flooded with reporters, supporters, and curious onlookers who'd driven hours to see the place where a waitress had sparked a revolution. The fallout was brutal. Mr. Sterling cut the twins off, freezing their accounts and barring them from the family business. Their penthouse was repossessed, their credit cards voided. But Leo and Noah weren't deterred. They poured their personal savings into Roots, securing the diner's lease and funding its first projects. Elena became the foundation's soul, her vision driving initiatives that changed lives, food banks that fed thousands, job programs that employ hundreds, scholarships that sent kids to college who'd never dared to hope. But the real twist came when Elena uncovered a deeper layer of Mr. Sterling's empire. A whistleblower, a former Apex Properties accountant named Claire Sterling, slipped Elena a USB drive containing documents that detailed Mr. Sterling's corruption, tax evasion, bribes to city officials, forged contracts to bankrupt small businesses. Elena's heart raced as she read them, each page a revelation. Rosie's diner wasn't just a single target, it was part of a larger pattern, a machine designed to crush the vulnerable for profit. Elena faced an impossible choice. Exposing the documents could bring Mr. Sterling down, but it would also unleash chaos. The foundation was still tied to Sterling money, its funding fragile. A scandal could derail everything they'd built, leaving families without the support they now relied on. But staying silent meant betraying the truth, betraying herself. She confided in Sophia, who looked at her with eyes that held a lifetime's of strength. "You know what's right, Mija," she said. "You've always known." Elena chose the truth. She sent the documents to a journalist she'd met at the gala, a woman named Priya Sharma, whose investigative work had toppled corrupt CEOs before. Priya's story was seismic, a billionaire's empire built on lies, exposed by a waitress who refused to be silenced. The headlines screamed betrayal, the internet ablaze with outrage and awe. Mr. Sterling's empire crumbled, his assets seized, his reputation in tatters. The twins, once torn by loyalty, stood by Elena. They'd lost their inheritance, but they'd gained something more, freedom. "You gave us a chance to be better," Noah told her, his voice thick with emotion. Leo nodded, his restless energy now quieted strength. "We're not Sterlings anymore. We're just us." Months later, Elena uncovered one final secret. Claire Sterling, the whistleblower, wasn't just an accountant. She was Mr. Sterling's estranged sister, cast out of the family decades earlier for challenging his greed. She'd been watching the twins from afar, hoping they'd break free. Her decision to trust Elena with the documents was her own redemption, a way to right the wrongs she'd witnessed. Claire joined Roots, her financial expertise strengthening the foundation. Together, she and Elena built a program to protect small businesses like Rosie's, ensuring no one else faced the fate Mr. Sterling had planned. 2 years later, Rosie's diner stood stronger than ever, its lease secure, its tables packed with locals, truckers, tourists, and activists drawn by its story. The neon sign glowed steadily now, no longer flickering, a symbol of hope in a town that had found its heart. Elena stood outside on a warm evening, the sky a canvas of stars. Inside, the diner buzzed with life, Leo flipping pancakes with a grin, Noah joking with Old Man Tucker, Mike teaching a new cook the griddle's trick. Elena's family had grown, not just in blood, but in spirit. Her phone buzzed, a photo from Sophia, now healthy enough to volunteer at the foundation's food bank. "Proud of you, Mija," the caption read. Elena's eyes stung, her heart full. Sophia's remission was a miracle, funded by treatments Roots had made possible. Elena's own life had transformed. She was halfway through business school, her nights filled with textbooks and dreams of expanding Roots nationwide. But she hadn't left the diner behind. She still worked weekends, pouring coffee and trading stories with regulars, grounding herself in the place that had shaped her. Roots was a movement now, with chapters in 30 cities. Its food banks fed tens of thousands, its job programs employed thousands, its scholarships sent hundreds to college. Leo and Noah had found their purpose, their loneliness replaced by a community they'd built together. They weren't just heirs anymore, they were builders, dreamers, friends. Elena was their anchor, her voice a spark that had ignited a revolution. The media still called her the waitress who changed the world, but Elena didn't care for the headlines. She cared for the people, the single mom who'd gotten a job through Roots, the kid who'd won a scholarship and hugged her in tears, the elderly couple who could afford their meds because of her programs. She cared for the twins who'd become her brothers, their laughter a reminder that family wasn't just blood. She cared for herself, the woman she'd become, not just a waitress, but Elena Rossi, a force of change. As she stepped back into the diner, the bell above the door chimed, a sound as steady as her heartbeat. The regulars cheered, raising coffee mugs and milkshakes to Elena. Mike bellowed, and the room erupted. Elena grinned, her eyes bright. She'd saved the diner, the twins, and herself. And in doing so, she'd built a world where kindness wasn't just survived. It thrived.